the changes that I've seen take place. So my guess is that there will be more changes. Hopefully I'll be a part of some of the new changes. And again, the backup is the other radio stations around town. Well, let me tell you for my last time today on this station anyway about one of my favorite places down in South Dade, and that's the Lots of Lux Deli. And, you know, if you haven't gone there, I'm not going to be able to remind you about this every week, so you'd better make a note right now to get down there. The Lots of Lux Deli is a place in the Coral Reef Shopping Center. The owner is Henry, and I know Henry very, very well. And I know that the way he runs that place, because I was in there last week, and boy, he saw someone standing at the counter that wasn't being waited on immediately, and he jumped up and what's going on here? Let's get these people. That's the way he runs his place. And if a man runs his business like that, you know that he's just as fussy about his food, his health, and the way that place runs, and it results in a great, great delicatessen. It's the Lots of Lux Deli. Their food is outstanding. Their sandwiches, let me tell you, unless you're a gigantic eater, you could almost have one sandwich for two people, because I'm a pretty good eater, and last week I could not finish one whole sandwich. And anyone that knows me knows that if I can't finish a whole sandwich, it's got to be enormous. So go to the Lots of Lux Deli and tell them that Ernie Sochin said to come by here. Let me tell you exactly where it is. The address is 14993 South Dixie Highway, which is the Coral Reef Shopping Center. It's at the corner of 152nd and South Dixie Highway, tucked back in the corner. Go in there, see Henry or Patty, and tell them Ernie Sochin sent you by. Ernie Sochin back with you on WINZ. And boy, look, you know, this is terrible. Usually on Saturday night between 6 and 7, I have a terrible time getting people to call. I've always felt that though that hour people are listening, but they're busy. They're eating dinner, as the gentleman who called before, or they're getting into the shower, or they're in their car on the way to a restaurant, hopefully one of my sponsors. But people are busy. But look at this. Those phones are all lit up. And I guess normally I'm not begging for calls, but I did want to let people know, and if people want to express their feelings about it, fine, you know. But I want to make it very clear that there is no bitterness towards WINZ here, because what they have done with me is very unusual in the world of radio. Usually when you are let go, you are let go. You don't have the microphone handed to you afterwards. In other words, when someone is let go from a radio station, the normal procedure is he's gone, because they don't want swan songs and they don't want people getting on there telling what a raw deal they got and everything else. They were nice enough in this case to tell me in advance, and not only did they tell me in advance and allow me to do my show today, but they've invited me to sit in for Mike Spindell, not tomorrow, but a week from Sunday and the following Sunday. So I will stay in contact with the people here on WINZ, with my listeners, and when Neil is on vacation, I'll hopefully sit in for a couple of days for him. So I'll be around. It's not like I'm gone. So don't say goodbye. And again, I have high hopes that there will be changes down the road at the station. And one day they'll say, you know, Ernie, you've done such a good job. We're going to put you here, there, or everywhere. But for the time being, I will not be on Saturdays. That's the only purpose in telling you this today, so you won't be shocked. Stan Majors will be on following Neil next Saturday and all Saturdays after that. And you're going to have two high-performance pros on all day Saturday, so WINZ is not going to let you down. Hello, Marie.
I hope your sponsors, and I hope the owner of the station, and all the talk show managers are listening in now, because I want to tell you, Ernie, with you and Kathy McCown gone, there is no issues on your station. You can tell me from today to tomorrow. A bunch of it comes on Neil's program one after the other, from the Mobile, the illiterate and one-sided. Then Stan Major's going to follow with more of the same, and that is become your station.
Well,
station of nothing.
Well, I'm sorry you feel that way, but the truth is that Neil has gotten the highest ratings probably that you could get, considering the market that we're in. You know, the Florida talk show market is most unusual. I know there is not another city in the country that has as active a talk show format as Miami does, as South Florida. Now, you have 3 major AM radio stations devoting almost all of their time to talk, and you have 4 Latin stations devoting all of their time to talk. That's 7 talk stations in a population area of about 3 million people. Now, I don't know. New York may have a couple. Boston has a couple. there isn't a major city in the country that has as much talk and as much talent as you have in this particular market. So Neil has done some incredible things at this station. Number one, he's gotten the ratings extremely high. He's gotten a great many young people who formerly were all bombed out listening to FM rock, finally switching over to AM and having some fun. You know, radio doesn't have to be elevator music all the time. Radio can be fun, and Neil has brought fun to AM radio. And because Neil has been so successful doing that, Stan Majors, who is different, I mean, he's, as I recall, he's a conservative, but he also does the same type of show that Neil will do, where he'll blend a bit of humor with a bit of sarcasm and hang up on a few people and be rude to a few people, but that's what makes a good talk radio. So you'll find that WINZ is a good station to listen to, without a doubt. And the other stations will be hard-pressed to compete. I know there's Steve Kane over WIOD. When he gets cranked up, I personally have always felt he's one of the best. I know a lot of people tend to want to put him down, but he's still a damn good talk show host because you never know what he's going to do. He has a few boring shows, but we all do. But he is good. The rest of them out there, I got to tell you, there aren't too many good ones. There really aren't. Emmett, how are you tonight?
I'm fine, thank you. How are you?
Good.
I'm sorry to hear you're going to be not with the Saturday show, but the best of luck to you.
Well, I appreciate that, and thank you.
I know this probably isn't the best time to bring it up, but I've been trying to see if I can get some support from some people. I'm calling in regards to the this new Florida state tax. I'm a registered architect, and I just recently received forms from the state to fill out and return to them to register for collecting their taxes.
Yeah.
They're charging me a $5 fee to send in this form, and I resent very much being a tax collector.
Well, we're all going, anyone that provides any kind of service. As a matter of fact, if I were an independent agent working for the station, I might have to collect tax from WINZ. Fortunately, I'm on regular payroll, but many talk show hosts operate as independent agents. I know at one time Neil did. He may have to charge the studio a sales tax.
Yes. Well, what's unfortunate about it is that if you don't fill out these forms and so forth, I have a tremendous amount of work and busy quite a lot. You are subject to penalties and so forth.
I know how you can get around it.
Yeah.
You open a duplex and you work with the state and county people only. Don't charge any sales tax, and no one will ever bother you. Just keep your name out of the Miami Herald.
Yeah.
Thanks for your call. Hi, Gil.
Ernie, you ruined me.
I ruined you.
You were my weekend breath of fresh air. I have to work like many people, and I look forward to your show every week, every Saturday, and I'm really going to miss you. The reason I called is I just had to thank you for your insight, your fresh view, and I'm really going to miss you, buddy, and I'll be thinking about you.
Okay.
I'll be scanning the papers, and I wish
Yeah, watch the papers because something's going to happen. I hate to say this and I hate to blow my own whistle, but I think I'm too good to go out to pasture, so something will happen.
You're not blowing your own whistle. I know you have many loyal listeners such as myself, and as I say again, good luck, and we're rooting for you.
Okay, thank you. You know, he used the term breath of fresh air. I used to love that term, but I'm getting to hate it now because every time somebody new gets on the air and says anything, they are immediately called a breath of fresh air. I've already heard it. When I first came on the air, that's all I heard about myself was breath of fresh air. And then every time anybody came on the show, no matter what they did, good or bad or indifferent, they were considered a breath of fresh air. I've heard Stan Majors being called a breath of fresh air. It's almost like that's somehow a kiss of death when we call someone a breath of fresh air and they're going to be gone soon. But that's an abused term, I guess. I don't want anyone. Call me anything. Don't call me a breath of fresh air. Hello, Harvey.
Ernie, this is the infamous Harvey from Kendall.
Oh, God, I got you 20 minutes to 7.
Well, you know, it's right before dinner, so, you know, I didn't want to, I was going to eat, and then I heard you were leaving, and so like the other people, I didn't want to do it on a full stomach.
Okay.
In all due respect, I will miss the Grand Bibbi and a lot of other different characters who have come and gone on the Ernie Sochin show. And, you know, Stan Majors, I'm sure, will probably be another breath of hot air. But I do have a lot of respect for the shows that you've done. I know that myself, there's the Hate Harvey from Kendall fans out there who, you know, it's the jealousy, but that's okay, you know. I'm sure that you certainly are more interesting than the plant doctor on WIOD. I didn't mean that as a cut. I meant it in serious. I mean, listening to some of the shows that other stations have on the air, it's an abomination and an affront to people who like to listen to the radio. I think that, of course, I wouldn't think that you'd want to go to work for from what I understand, this guy Anthony over at WIOD, you know. But I just want to say that at least in going out with a flare, that at least you and I could get the last laugh on Neil, because he had the last place finisher in the race today, Leo Castelli with Santos up.
Oh, is that right? I didn't know who he had chosen in the race.
He was touting all week, so for all the railbirds that called or that listened to Neil Rogers, you know, that's just another bum's play there. You know, I mean, ranting and raving. I really have to give the guy, you know, credit for pushing something called So Far, which I, on the one hand, agree with, and then for a guy, since last October, of course, I've never called his show since last October. He makes it sound like I'm pushing, you know, my fingers are bloody dialing his show. I wouldn't give him the opportunity to hang up on me. But a guy that would just allow somebody like myself to talk to his show, because he can't stand it, you know, that somebody, see, it's all ego. At least I think that you've been one of the few guys to repress your ego a little bit. You know, blowing your own horn and saying that you're a good talk show host is one thing, because you're telling the truth. But these other guys in town, especially welcome to the neighborhood, Mr. Rogers. You know, it's too bad their arms aren't longer, so they could all pat themselves on the back. You know, but you know,
okay, Javi,
I'm sure you'll wind up somewhere.
I think so, and I appreciate your call, and thanks for your good wishes.
Good luck to you. It's too bad that you had to put up with a guy like that. It's too bad that you.
Well, no, I got to give him credit. He's the guy that got me on the air. Remember that.
He's smart about one thing.
Yeah.
Take care, and the best of luck.
Thank you. Bye-bye. You know, it's funny. I know everybody likes to take an opportunity to trash Neil on other shows, and he, you know, he does some things obviously that deserve trashing from time to time. But again, and I'll repeat this for those of you who did not hear it at the beginning. Were it not for Neil, I never would have had an opportunity to be on the air. And I honestly think, because of what he told me off the air, that Neil would have liked to have seen me continue with the station, and I have no reason to believe otherwise. And I don't want to tinkle on his shoes, to use this expression, but in the time that I've been here, I've seen him do some pretty damn wonderful things, including the radio aid thing, and I haven't seen too many talk show hosts devote a great deal of their time and radio time just to helping poor people without any benefit to themselves, and he has gotten totally involved in this So Far program. Again, the only benefit he gets out of it is that he can do on the air what he likes to do, but he's put a lot of effort into these things, which everyone will benefit from if the thing is successful. So you can trash him, you can talk about him. He has a lot of idiosyncrasies. He hangs up on a lot of people that perhaps I'd like to hear continue. He does not like to take repeat calls from people over and over again, and I don't blame him for that, because I don't know how often Harvey has called Neil. He's called me maybe 3-4 times in the past year and a half. You don't want the same people calling your show every week or even every other week, because then it becomes rote. People listen, they say, oh, I'm going to listen to so-and-so today, and so-and-so is going to call. You don't want that in a talk show. But if somebody has something to offer or something to contribute to a particular conversation, the mere fact that they have called once or twice before, in my mind, is no reason to exclude them from the show. So that's just my own personal feeling about it. I guess we have to take one more break, and then I'll get back to your call. So we'll be back right after this. Well, it's about 14 minutes before 7, and I'm starting to salivate just a little bit, because when I leave the station here tonight, I'm going right over to Brick Oven Pizzeria in Hollywood, and I'm going to have, Ray, if you're listening, you can have it all ready for me, okay? I'm going to have a beer to kind of relax a little bit, because I had a tough hour during the Belmont Stakes that we weren't able to broadcast. I'm going to have a beer. I'm going to have an antipasto. I won't eat a whole Ernie, because I want to save room for some baked ziti. And then I'm not going to have dessert with you tonight, Ray. You're going to have to forgive me that, but I've got to go up and visit Bassett's Ice Cream right up the street from you, and I've got to have some ice cream. I just, you know, my body's being deprived of it, so I'm going to be there tonight. And if anybody wants to come by either place and see what Ernie Sochin looks like, those of you who haven't had the great fortune of seeing what I really shouldn't do that, because you know what always happens when I meet people? They say, you don't look anything like what I expected you to look like. And I usually get comments, people say, gee, I thought you were much taller. Fred, that met me here today for the first time, thought that I was much older. I don't know why he thought I was much older. I don't think I have an old voice. Maybe I do. I can't be objective about that. And one time in Hallandale at the Diplomat Mall, this lovely little lady looked up to me and she said, you don't look as romantic as I thought you were going to look. I don't know what looking romantic is, but obviously, whatever it is, I don't look it. Hello, Crystal. Crystal, are you there? I don't have anyone on line 2. Is that what that means? She's gone? Okay, so instead we'll go to Mildred.
Hi, Ernie.
Hi, Mildred.
Never called you before. but I wish you all the luck in the world. I cannot tell you how many happy hours I've spent with you, with tongue-in-cheek, your Tomb organization.
Boy, that was one of my first ones, too, the Tomb show.
No, and I was completely taken aback. I took it serious at the time. I didn't understand you then. And I couldn't understand. It must have been the second or third show.
Yeah.
And I said, what happened to this man, you know?
Crazy guy, right? A wild and crazy guy.
Right, and the shoe business and the sock business and all the other wonderful times. And I know how much you wanted to become a talk show host on a permanent basis. And I'm sure you're going to be one.
I think you're right, and I appreciate you telling me that, Mildred. And one thing I always remember is I forget what studio, whether it was MGM or one of the big studios, turned Clark Gable away because his ears were too big. And can you imagine what they're thinking, or whatever that studio is, if they're still in business? They probably are not thinking now. So this was just my first shot at it. And, you know, I guess if I have any regrets, it's that years and years ago, I hadn't thought about becoming a broadcaster. It just, when I was young and growing up, I had an amateur radio station, which I built myself, and I enjoyed the technical end of it, and I enjoyed talking into the microphone and all, but I never at that time gave any thought to going into broadcasting. I did always enjoy making speeches and being up in front of groups, and I always enjoyed being the center of attention, which is something you get to be as a talk show host. It never occurred to me until I began doing biorhythms. And those of you who remember me as a guest on many of the talk shows, I used to do biorhythms. I was on with Neil and Sandy Payton and Al Rantel and Alan Burke and I was Mike Spindell's guest at one time. And I think I was on every single show doing biorhythms. And I began to enjoy being the center of attention, talking into a microphone and having people respond to you. And that's when I began thinking about being a talk show host. And thanks to Neil Rogers, he got me connected with WINZ, and that's why I've been here for the past year and a half. So it has been fun, and I've really, really, really enjoyed it. And now that I've had my taste of it, and it's in my blood, I can promise you it's something I'm going to pursue. And I'm sure, well, you know, I've already told you I'm going to be filling in here at WINZ for a while. And if they find a position for me, fine. If not, maybe one of the other stations. I guess Harvey mentioned Mike Anthony. I've only met the man once or twice and spoken to him. He seems like a fine gentleman to me, and until someone has done me wrong, I have no reason to think otherwise. I've spoken to Lee Fowler. I've gotten to talk and meet with a lot of people at various stations, and they're not the ogres that they're painted to be, at least from my point of view. Maybe if I get to know them, I'll change my mind, but right now, I don't hold any animosity towards them or anybody here. Joe, how you doing?
Hello.
Hi.
Ernie.
Yeah.
Good evening. I'm a first-time caller, and I listen to you, I'll be honest, on and off. I work on Saturday afternoons in my car, and I listen to most of the talk shows that I switch on and off, but I've been listening to you for about a year and a half on and off. One question, and then I'll make a comment.
Go ahead.
What was the reason they gave you for letting you go?
Very simple. Stan Majors came on board, and when you work in radio, I guess it's standard to work 6 days, and the most logical time to put him was following Neil on Saturday. Stan Majors is a 25-year veteran of the broadcasting industry, and I think they were fortunate to get him.
Regardless, I think that was Bush, and I'll tell you why. In any corporation, first, and I guess in broadcasting it's a little different, but you have to instill loyalty. Okay?
Yeah.
And if in one corporation a gentleman is a vice president, or I'm using that as an example, of course, and there's a presidency in a division open, I think it's first you promote from within.
It very seldom happens in industry or in radio. You promote, if a good person is available from another company to fill that presidency, chances are he's going to get the job, and that's the way things work. And I'm used to that. That's the way that life is all about. That's what life's all about.
Okay, but this is my point. If you were doing a bad job, and I do believe in your ratings, you're one of the top talk hosts on the weekend, if I'm
right.
not mistaken.
Right.
True?
Yep. If
that is the case, I do not understand, with the loyal listeners that you do have, why you are not given the opportunity to follow Neil Rogers on a Monday through Saturday show from 2 to 6, where you would, upon having your listeners already there, acquiring more listeners that are able to listen to you during the week, and build on that basis itself, okay, which will probably rival, maybe I may be blowing this out of proportion, but rivaling Neil Rogers' ratings.
Yeah, see, you and I agree on that, but the difference is that I'm not a proven commodity as far as most people are concerned on a full-time basis, and until I become one, they have to make the decision that's best for the radio station at the time. That's why, even though I'm sad and disappointed, I really can't hold any animosity towards WINZ.
Well, you're taking it like a true gentleman, but there's got to be some there, Ernie.
I think there will be eventually. You know, it's only been a year and a half, and Neil's been in the business, 20 years or better. Stan Major's 25. So I really haven't paid my dues yet.
No, I don't agree. I don't agree with you there. And thirdly, the point was, I think you'll probably show up in another radio station, and I sincerely hope so.
Well, either another radio station. I'd love to stay here because this has kind of been a home for me, but I do want to stay on the radio on a regular basis, and I'll talk to a lot of other people.
I agree. One last point that I wanted to make. Upon, when you talked, I just totally cleared my mind. But the point is that I think they should have gave you at least 2 to 3 rating books, an opportunity, Ernie, and I think you deserved it because you were on the radio for a year and a half, and I think they owed it to you. I think Neil Rogers, the same way he had an influence in bringing you to the station, he could have used his influence to put you on during the week, if I'm not mistaken. True or not?
I think that he tried his best. I
don't think so. Because if he had the influence to put you on, I think he had the influence showing that your ratings and you stood by yourself just along, and your ratings alone stood by themselves.
The trouble is that the ratings on weekends, they don't have hour-by-hour ratings like they do during the week. So my rating period starts at 3 o'clock, and it's tough to measure exactly what part of it is mine, what part of it carries over from Neil, and so on. They really don't know. All they know is that during the time that I'm on, this station has the highest ratings of any of the talk show hosts. I believe it's from my doing, but you can rationalize that many different ways.
I agree. No, you built your own audience. If people wouldn't have liked you, regardless of Neil Rogers' audience, they would have said, well, this guy stinks. Let's turn him off and let's listen to somebody else. That's a fact. If you're good, people will listen to you. And I think you're good. I think you deserve the shot. And, in fact, you're man enough to come on and do your show this afternoon. But I would have said, I thank you very much, and left the radio.
They were nice enough to let me do it this way.
But you're taking it like a man, and without a doubt, you'll show up someplace else.
I hope so, and I appreciate your comments, Joe. You know, it is interesting because you have to analyze it. You can't look at it only from your own point of view, because if I look at it from my point of view, actually, obviously I'm unhappy and saddened by the whole thing, but I don't know that if I were a station manager, if I might not have done the exact same thing. The ratings thing, it's tough to measure. It really is. To measure by the caller's response or by the letters to the station, I like to think that I have a good, loyal group of people out there listening to me right now, but I must admit that I've heard people on the air that are just, in my opinion, and probably everyone else's opinion, so bad, and yet they still get calls saying you're a breath of fresh air, and you're wonderful, and you're this, and you're that. And believe me, there have been people on this station and other stations that are boring and dull and have nothing to contribute and nothing to offer, and yet people still will call up and tell them how wonderful they are. So I think the stations become immune to people calling up and saying, why are you doing this, and why isn't so and so on more? I don't think they can respond. The only thing they can respond to, unfortunately for some of us, unfortunately for others, is the book. My book is good, but on weekends it's not as important what the book says as it would be during the week. Let's see if I can squeeze Helen in here quickly. Hi, Helen.
Hi. I just want to say goodbye, and I'm glad you're going to be around.
I will be around, I promise you, and I thank you very, very much. And I guess you know what I should do before I leave? I should get one last vote here, whether people really have enjoyed my show or not. Okay, I think that says it. Arlene, I'm going to be around. You're not getting rid of me totally. I'm going to be poking in and out of here. I'm going to be substituting. And Kimba, you've really provided a lot of fun. I've got to tell you this. You've made it easier, because having a good board op who's involved with your show, and I have to tell you, it took me a while, for example, to get to know Kyle, because at first I thought the guy hated me, but once I got to know him, I found out that even Kyle is a lot of fun and can really help you make a show. And Kimba, you've done a really great job. You've kept my spirits up when they begin to sag at times. You've offered a little bit of levity to what we're doing. So my personal thanks to you. Again, my sponsors, my listeners, thanks. If you really must hear my voice, make sure that you listen to the Mike Spindell Show. A week from Sunday, I'll be filling in for him. Goodbye, everyone. Have a wonderful time. I'm going to head over to Brick Oven tonight. Maybe we'll see some of you there. Good night, everyone.
You've been listening to The Ernie Sochin Show on WINZ. The views expressed in this program are those of the host, guests, and callers, and are not necessarily those of WINZ. Stay tuned as the WINZ Weekend continues on WINZ.